Missing wings on an alien beetle pose an evolutionary mystery. The specimen is the first wingless male beetle ever found. The insect in the small specimen collection of Lund University in Sweden looked out of place. Okay, this is a prank. Vinicius Ferreira, an insect taxonomist and evolutionary biologist, said to himself, "It's a joke." The beetle, only 1/10 of an inch and found in 1991 in Oaxaca, Mexico, among leaf litter of a pine and oak forest floor at an elevation of more than 9,500 feet by the naturalist Richard Baranowski, was most definitely a male. But it was missing one of the animal's defining characteristics, the tough fruing casing known to scientists as the elytra. After careful analysis, Dr. Ferreira described the insect this month in the Zoological Journal of the Linnean Society as a previously unknown but extraordinary elytra-less species of beetle. Xenomorphin Baranowski. Boom. We found this really weird animal. The alien beetle, Dr. Ferreira said, selecting a name that honored Dr. Baranowski and also called to mind the alien of his favorite sci-fi movie franchise. We finally found one. "I think it's very exciting," said Michael Ivey, curator of entomology at Montana State University, who was not involved in the research. "This is an amazing beast. We can't do a lot yet, but up until this discovery, we didn't know there was something to even look for," he added. Wings consume a lot of energy, so throughout evolutionary history, many insect species have independently lost the ability to fly. But there are more than 500,000 known beetle species, and until now, all have had at least some form of hard-fruing elytra. Even in cases where it's not used for flying and is fused together, this shell-like wing cover is thought to be one of the keys to beetle survival. It protects their soft body and lets them squeeze into small crevices and out of dangerous situations. In the case of Dr. Ferreira's alien beetle, he and his colleagues speculate that quitting flying and shedding the elytra could be a protective measure to avoid getting blown away by big gusts of wind at the high elevations where they live. Dr. Ferreira also connected the species to a poorly understood evolutionary trend he and others have studied called paedomorphosis. In this phenomenon, adult females of some beetle species retain a few of their juvenile features, look more like larvae, and sometimes even lose their wings. The winglessness of the male Xenomorphin Baranowski resembles what has been found in females of those beetle species, but typically, male beetles use their power of flight to chase females far and wide for mating. So if paedomorphosis was already perplexing in female beetles, it makes even less sense that a male beetle would not develop wings as an adult. It is the most extremist example of paedomorphosis, Dr. Ferreira said. "It's not so good for you to be paedomorphic," he added, as it leaves individual beetles more vulnerable to threats and unable to get very far. But, his team hypothesizes, losing forewings and the ability to move could allow a beetle species to become more specialized and to more successfully occupy a tiny geographical niche. These findings could serve as an example of how extremely adaptable beetles have been throughout their evolution, a trait that makes them one of the most successful animals on the planet. "This is an extreme situation," said Robert Anderson, a researcher at the Canadian Museum of Nature who was not involved in this study. "This is obviously way out there in terms of its strangeness." The description is also based on a single specimen of Xenomorphin, and although entire species of insects are often described from one-off discoveries, researchers know virtually nothing else about the animal. Its DNA could not be studied, there are no data about its life history, and there's no trace of what females from this species might possibly look like. The next step would be to hike back up that Mexican mountain in the hopes of finding more elytra-less beetles. "I honestly knew this would eventually come up someday," Dr. Ferreira said. "It's really puzzling, but everything is possible with beetles." Insects are one of the few groups of animals that developed the ability of active flight. Such mobility allowed the group to successfully explore and thrive in nearly all kinds of ecological niches. At the same time, during the evolutionary history of insects, due to high costs of wing development, Flight was lost independently in many groups. In beetles, the reduction or complete loss of hind wings has been reported in multiple lineages, especially in several extreme paedomorphic and larviform females, mainly in Elytoroidea, in which not only the hind wings but also the elytra are lost. However, the complete absence of elytra in adult males was hitherto unknown, despite nearly 500,000 described species in Coleoptera. In this study, we report the discovery of Xenomorphan buranovsky general at SP, November. The first completely unelytrous and wingless adult male beetle, belonging to the family Lichidae, Coleoptera, Elytoroidea. Xenomorphan buranovsky is illustrated, described, and provisionally placed in Caloptrini, based on our morphology-based phylogenetic analyses. We discuss the possible scenarios that could lead to such a rare event, when a beetle loses its elytra, and its evolutionary consequences. The Leptolicini are a group of Lichidae endemic to the West Indies. Leptolicini adult females have been hypothesized to be extreme paedomorphic, i.e., larviform. However, females and larvae of the group are currently unknown. Here we provide the first association of adult male and immature life stages from the Puerto Rico using DNA barcoding, also collections-based associations and descriptions of immature Leptolicini, and the first description of a paedomorphic female from the Virgin Islands. To carry out these life stage associations, we prepared an in-depth review of the Leptolicini fauna of the Puerto Rican Bank, Puerto Rico and Virgin Islands. Several new taxa and taxonomic arrangements are proposed. Cessator crypticus new species, Cessator tortolensis new species, Cessator obrinorum new species, Dracolicus chupacabra new genus and species, Dracolicus marshalli new species, Leptolicus falciheterocornis new species, and Leptolicus vensis new species. Nanolicus nomus kazantsev is moved to Cessator nomus kazantsev, new combination, rendering Nanolicus kazantsev a new junior synonym of Cessator kazantsev. The subgenus Baholicus bacchic is a new junior synonym of Leptolicus leng and muchler. Leptolicus heterocornis var. Flaviculus leng and muchler is elevated to Leptolicus flaviculus leng and muchler new status. Leptolicus albicauda kazantsev is a new junior synonym of Leptolicus flaviculus leng and muchler. An updated key to the adults and immature forms of Leptolicini from the Puerto Rican Bank and a discussion on the importance of scientific collections in biodiversity studies is also provided. Robert Bob Anderson discovers, names and classifies weevils, Coerculionid, a prolific and diverse family of beetles. As someone who has discovered and named over 250 new species of weevils and counting, including one named after the entomologist Carl Atwood, father of noted Canadian author Margaret Atwood, one after Jose Bautista, a Major League Baseball player for the Toronto Blue Jays, and country singer Kevin Fowler. He is a recognized expert on North, Central and South American weevil diversity. The leaf litter that carpets the floors of tropical forests, particularly forests at higher elevations in the mountains, is especially rich in weevils, which feed on the fallen plant material and play a key role in recycling nutrients back into the food chain. Anderson has studied this poorly known ecosystem in great detail in order to identify and classify the many new weevil species that live there. Over his 30-year career as a coleopterist, as of 2020, Anderson has published over 150 research papers and articles on beetles in the scientific literature. He currently serves as the secretary of the Coleopterists Society, has been president of the Coleopterists Society, director of the museum's Beatty Center for Species Discovery, and has served as adjunct professor at McGill University, as research associate of the American Museum of Natural History and the University of Kansas, and as an international taxonomic advisor to InBio, the National Biodiversity Institute of Costa Rica. I am an entomologist addressing a variety of research questions in the fields of systematics, evolutionary and conservation biology. My recent and ongoing projects address the taxonomy and higher-level phylogenetics of beetles, the investigation of the hypotheses of higher speciation rates and increased morphological plasticity in paidomorphic lineages, and on the use of natural history collections as resources for understanding biodiversity loss. Paidomorphosis is a heterochronic syndrome in which adult individuals display features of their immature forms. In beetles, this phenomenon occurs widely in the superfamily Elateroidea, including the net-winged beetles, Lichid, and, due to the usual flightlessness of paidomorphic females, it is hypothesized to cause speciation rates higher than. Lessons from a museum's cabinet. DNA barcoding and collections-based life stage associations reveals a hidden diversity in the Puerto Rican bank paidomorphic Lichid, Coloptera, Elateroidea, Leptolicini. Here we provide the first association of adult male and immature life stages from the Puerto Rico using DNA barcoding.